Title: The Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. Chapter 1. Embers of the Past. The wind howled through the stone crevices of Mount Kunlun, sweeping through the quiet mountain village of Hangxi like a ghost remembering its former life. Snowflakes danced in the air, clinging briefly to rooftops before vanishing into puddles of melted slush. In this quiet cradle of forgotten martial legacies, an ordinary boy was about to step into an extraordinary fate. Li Feng crouched near the edge of the ravine, his rough fingers wrapped around the handle of a worn pickaxe. Barely 17, his frame was lean from long days of hauling ore and chopping firewood. His black hair, tied in a loose knot, fluttered against the nape of his neck. Despite the calluses on his hands and the soot streaked across his cheek, there was an uncommon brightness in his eyes, clear, observant, and brimming with silent yearning. "Feng, don't stay out too long. The wolves are bolder near dusk," shouted Master Rong from behind a trail of smoke. The old blacksmith's voice echoed across the rock face as he stoked the forge, the orange glow of its flames rising like a dragon's breath. "Just one more swing, Master. I saw a gleam beneath this ridge," Li Feng replied, chipping at the stone. His voice carried a quiet resolve. This wasn't just about ore. Deep inside, something called to him from within the mountain. He struck once more, then again, and then clang. Not the dull ring of stone. This was sharp, metallic, hollow. Curious, Li Feng set the pickaxe aside and dug with his hands, pushing away rocks and moss. There, buried beneath years of earth and time, lay a rusted blade protruding from a cracked stone pedestal. The hilt, though worn, was wrapped in faded golden thread. Symbols were etched along the spine of the blade, half hidden by rust, yet still pulsing faintly with an inner glow. His hand hovered above it. "Don't." The whisper came not from around him, but within. Still, Li Feng ignored the voice. The sword seemed to thrum in response to his presence, like it remembered him. He gripped the hilt. In an instant, the world around him changed. He stood not on a mountain, but amid a battlefield. Blades clashed, flames roared, and warriors in flowing robes fought against shadows with glowing eyes. At the center of the chaos stood a masked man, twin swords in hand, backlit by heavenly light. Li Feng gasped and let go. He fell backward, panting, the snow wet against his back. The blade remained where it was, humming softly, and the wind carried a single phrase across the valley. "He who draws the heaven sword shall decide the fate of the realm." Li Feng returned to the village with the vision still burning in his mind. He did not speak of the sword, nor the battlefield. That night, as the stars blinked into existence above Hangxi, he sat outside the forge, staring up at the sky. "What are you thinking about, boy?" Master Rong asked, sitting beside him with a jug of plum wine. Li Feng hesitated. "Master, do you believe destiny chooses us, or do we choose our destiny?" Master Rong chuckled. "Only a fool waits for destiny to knock. We forge it ourselves, like steel on the anvil. Why? Did you see something in those old rocks?" Li Feng shook his head, but his eyes held secrets now. That night, he dreamt of the masked warrior again. This time, the figure turned toward him and spoke, "Find the twin to the heaven sword, or darkness shall devour the realms." When he woke, the morning sun painted the peaks gold, and something inside him had shifted. He would return to the sword. He would uncover the truth. And perhaps he would forge a new fate, not just for himself, but for all of Jianghu. Chapter 2. Whispers beneath the ice. Li Feng stood before the crack in the mountainside once more, snow crunching beneath his boots. The rusted blade still jutted from the stone, waiting. He hesitated, fingers brushing the hilt, but he did not draw it. Not yet. Instead, he began clearing the area around it. If there were secrets buried beneath, he would unearth them with patience, not impulse. For the next 7 days, Li Feng returned under the guise of foraging. He brought food and supplies, digging carefully, carving out a shallow cavern around the sword. He read the symbols along the hilt by lamplight, copying them into a tattered journal. The script was ancient, but pieces of it matched an old manuscript Master Rong had once used to repair ceremonial armor. On the 8th day, he found something more. A small chest, sealed with jade clasps, buried beside the pedestal. It clicked open to reveal scrolls, 6 in total, wrapped in red silk. Each was labeled with the same sigil as the sword, S. Pommel, a crescent moon pierced by a dragon, S. Feng. As Li Feng unfurled the first scroll, words spilled into his mind like a torrent. Heavenly saber song technique. First movement. The moon breaks the tide. He staggered back. Not just a manual, a cultivation method. Back in the village, Master Rong noticed the change. Li Feng no longer swung the hammer idly. He moved with purpose, grace sharpening every step. His reflexes grew keener. His aura, though still faint, began to pulse with an energy Rong had not seen in common folk. One night, Rong confronted him. "You found something, haven't you?" Li Feng bowed. "I swear, no ill, master. But yes, I found something ancient. I believe it's tied to Jiang Hu's past." The old man sighed. "Jiang Hu has too many secrets. You dig too deep, you may awaken more than just memories." Li Feng nodded. "Then I will face them, master, with or without help." Rong was silent for a time, then handed the boy an old blade, blackened by time, but well balanced. "Then train properly, and if you draw that sword, know that it will not just test your strength, it will test your soul." That night, under the moon's cold light, Li Feng began practicing the first movement. And somewhere, far across the mountains, a pair of eyes opened within the shadows. "The heaven sword stirs again," a cloaked figure whispered. "The cycle begins anew." Chapter 3. Shadows of the Sect. The morning sun had barely kissed the peaks of Mount Kunlun when Li Feng descended into the valley, his pack filled with food, scrolls, and a mind full of questions. He had trained through the night, repeating the first movement of the heavenly saber song until his limbs trembled with exhaustion, but each repetition brought clarity, balance, power. He needed answers, and the only place left was the Jiangwu sect, the renowned martial school nestled within the forested cliffs northeast of Hanxi. Though once a beacon of martial excellence, whispers said the sect had grown secretive, its inner court fractured by politics and ambition. Li Feng approached the outer gates just as the disciples finished their morning routines. Clad in indigo robes, their forms flashed like lightning across the training yards. He bowed low to the gatekeeper. "I seek entry, not as a disciple, but as a seeker of knowledge." The gatekeeper, a broad-shouldered man with a hawk's gaze, narrowed his eyes. "Many seek, few are chosen. What makes you worthy?" Li Feng reached into his satchel and produced one of the scrolls. The gatekeeper's eyes widened as he glimpsed the ancient sigil. "Wait here." Within the hour, Li Feng stood before Elder Mo, a stooped man wrapped in golden robes, eyes sharp with hidden fire. "You claim to have found a fragment of the heavenly saber song. Blasphemy, if untrue. Glory, if real. Show me." Li Feng demonstrated the first movement. The chamber trembled. Candles flickered. Elder Mo rose, stunned. "That technique has been lost for over 2 centuries. Where did you learn it, boy?" "I found it buried beneath Mount Kunlun, sealed beside an ancient sword." The elder's expression darkened. "That sword. You did not draw it, did you?" Li Feng hesitated. "No, elder, not yet." "Good, because once drawn it shall draw the world to you. Enemies, old oaths, the weight of 1,000 fallen clans." Thus began his probationary period in the Jiangwu sect. Li Feng trained under wary eyes, dismissed by many senior disciples as a commoner with borrowed skills. He kept his scrolls hidden, sharing only fragments. Still, his growth was undeniable. His strikes grew faster, his steps impossibly light. Rumors began to stir, the commoner with the saber soul, but envy breeds darkness. Senior disciple Yan, son of a noble family and favored by Elder Mo, saw Li Feng's rise as a threat. One night he sent assassins after him during a supply run beyond the sect walls, but Li Feng, sensing the ambush, unveiled the second movement. The river shatters the stone. 3 masked figures lay unconscious before they hit the ground. Elder Mo summoned Li Feng again. Do you know why the heavenly saber song vanished? Because those who wielded it were hunted. That you still live means fate has plans for you. Li Feng met his gaze. Then I must grow strong enough to meet it. In the shadows, Yan watched, rage boiling. If Li Feng was the chosen one, then he would be the one to break him. Chapter 4. The Blade Beneath the Surface. The days at Jiangwu sect passed like the slow turning of a water wheel, each moment grinding and shaping Li Feng's resolve. His probationary status allowed him access to the lower training courts and public manuals, but not the inner sanctum where the sect's true arts were hidden. Still, he studied diligently, rising before dawn to train and retiring long after others had left the courtyard. But while he honed his saber techniques in the open, at night he would retreat into the wooded hills behind the sect and unroll the ancient scrolls from the heavenly saber song. The first and second movements had become as natural to him as breathing, and now he struggled to decipher the third. The third movement. Heaven splits the ocean. The scroll's calligraphy shimmered with veiled intent, as though resisting his understanding. Every time he believed he had grasped the essence, the meaning slipped through his fingers like mist. He suspected it required more than just physical strength. There was a spiritual essence embedded in the motion, something tied to emotion, memory, perhaps even destiny itself. Elder Mo's words echoed in his mind. That sword, you did not draw it, did you? It called to him every night from the base of his satchel. The sword still rested in its ancient scabbard, bound by threads of spiritual energy. But Li Feng knew once drawn, there would be no turning back. Meanwhile, conflict brewed in the sect. Senior disciple Yan, bitter from his failed attempt to assassinate Li Feng, orchestrated a campaign of subtle sabotage. Training partners suddenly became uncooperative. Tasks piled up. Weapons disappeared. Yan confronted Elder Mo in the inner hall. This commoner, he has poisoned the discipline of our sect. He flaunts strange arts. How do we know he hasn't stolen them from demonic sources? Elder Mo studied him. You fear him? Yan's eyes flashed. I fear what he might bring. Then best you make peace with it, for fate does not wait for the approval of frightened men. That night, while meditating in the forest, Li Feng was visited by a presence. A cloaked figure appeared beneath the moonlight, silent and sudden. You carry the saber song, the voice rasped. You awaken the lineage. Li Feng stood, cautious. Who are you? A remnant of the Blade Order. We are gone, but echoes remain. The figure moved. A single stroke of its blade cleaved a boulder in half. The saber song was never meant for one man. It is a burden and a beacon. Finish the third movement, and the heavens will no longer ignore you. Before Li Feng could respond, the figure vanished into mist. By the end of the month, Li Feng completed the third movement. In a stormy duel during a sect exhibition, Yan challenged him publicly. Before the entire assembly, he accused Li Feng of witchcraft and demanded a match to determine his worth. The match was ferocious. Yan's blade style was aggressive, rooted in nobility and tradition. But Li Feng's saber danced unpredictably, each stroke flowing like waves over a jagged reef. Then, as thunder rumbled above, Li Feng unleashed the third movement. Heaven splits the ocean. A deafening crack resounded. Yan's blade shattered. The wind howled with ethereal energy as Li Feng's saber halted inches from his opponent's throat. Silence followed. Elder Mo stepped forward. The heavens have chosen. Li Feng, from this day, you are no longer a probationary member. You are an inner disciple. But even as cheers erupted, Li Feng sensed something dark stir in the distance. That night, the spiritual seal on the sword in his satchel broke with a soft chime, and across the continent, an ancient clan opened their eyes. Chapter 5. The Crimson Pavilion. Unveiled. The wind howled over the blood-mist hills as Li Feng and Lady Qian crossed into the territory of the Crimson Lotus Pavilion. A vast forest, once blooming with fire-red camellias, now lay wilted and twisted, its energy corrupted by dark sorcery. Whispers followed them through the trees, remnants of spiritual wraiths banished long ago. "Stay close," Qian murmured. "This land feeds on fear." Their journey was not one of distance, but of fate. Deep in the heart of the pavilion's ruins, a forgotten altar pulsed with ancient power. It was here, generations ago, the Blade Sovereign sealed his essence. They arrived before the altar, an obsidian monolith veined with golden script, half buried in moss and crimson roots. Li Feng approached it cautiously, drawn by a force that bypassed thought and memory. When his fingers brushed the stone, the world shattered. He was no longer in the forest. Instead, he stood in a boundless field of stars. A towering figure clad in radiant armor stared at him, his own face, older, harsher, crowned with sorrow. "You carry my legacy," the spirit said, "but will you carry my regrets?" Li Feng staggered back. The figure vanished. From the altar, a blade emerged, a single-edged saber forged of light and storm. Its hilt bore the phoenix sigil, wings outstretched. Lady Qian gasped. The Heaven Blade! In the instant he grasped it, knowledge poured into him. Forms, techniques, history, betrayal, loyalty. He saw an empire rise and fall, all at the swing of this weapon. Suddenly, the forest screamed. Assassins clad in black, their faces hidden behind dragon masks, emerged from the shadows. The Black Phoenix Clan. Li Feng fought instinctively. The saber danced through the air, its energy slicing through illusions and flesh alike. Qian moved like water beside him, her twin daggers spinning. The fight was brutal. Dozens fell. But as the dust settled, a figure cloaked in crimson watched from the treetops. "So the boy awakens," he murmured, then vanished into mist. Li Feng dropped to his knees, exhausted. Qian knelt beside him. "The world will come for you now. Are you ready?" He looked at the saber, pulsing softly in his hand. "I have to be." They returned to Jiangwu sect, but the journey was no longer one of returning home. It was returning changed. The elders met them at the gates with silence and suspicion. Elder Mo's eyes narrowed as he saw the saber. "So the echoes were true," he said. "The Blade Sovereign walks once more." And thus the whispers began. Chapter 6. Shadows of the Past. Following the assassination attempt at the Crimson Lotus Pavilion, Li Feng knew the tides of destiny were no longer gentle streams, but roaring torrents threatening to sweep him into chaos. With Lady Qian at his side, he returned to the Jiangwu sect not as a disciple, but as a bearer of secrets too great for the mountains to contain. Elder Mo stood silently at the gate as they arrived. "You've awakened the blade," he said. Li Feng nodded, and drawn the attention of the Black Phoenix Clan. Mo sighed. Then the legends were true. The Blade Sovereign walks again. The sect convened an emergency assembly. Elders debated. Some demanded Li Feng be placed in isolation. Others argued to crown him sect heir. Amidst the clamor, Li Feng stood calm. "I ask for no titles, only the strength to defend what matters." Silence followed. Then Elder Mo raised his hand. Let him speak to the sword of records. Let the sword test his truth. In the hidden chamber beneath the Hall of Ancients, the sword of records waited, an ancient saber embedded in stone, said to resonate with the truths of all who stood before it. Only those free of deceit could awaken its light. Li Feng approached. His palm rested on the hilt. Visions assaulted him. Flashes of war, of a past life, of a throne drenched in blood and a woman's tearful goodbye. He saw himself in golden robes, leading armies, shattering mountains, then fading into darkness. The sword glowed. "He is the sovereign reborn," the chamber's guardian whispered. News spread like wildfire. In towns and cities, whispers became chants. Peasants sang of the blade-wielding orphan. Loyalists rose. Enemies sharpened their fangs. But within Jiangwu sect, dissent festered. Senior disciple Yan, though disgraced, had found new allies. Rogue sects bitter over Jiangwu's growing fame. They met in secret beneath moonless skies. "He's a puppet of the heavens," Yan spat. "But men forge their own fate. We must kill the puppet before he becomes the master." He sent mercenaries, spies, saboteurs. One night, Li Feng's courtyard exploded in flame. Poison needles struck his doorpost. Shadow figures moved in the mist. He survived each attempt with the aid of Qian and his sharpened instincts. Still, he knew, Jiangwu sect was no longer safe. Elder Mo gathered trusted disciples. "We must act. The empire rots from within. The Black Phoenix clan tightens its grip. The sovereign has returned, and with him, a chance." Li Feng met their eyes. "Then we marched to the capital, not as rebels, but as restorers." As they descended from the mountain, war banners rose across the land. Factions assembled. Ancient allies of the Blade Sovereign stirred from slumber. The winds howled with omens. The storm had arrived. Chapter 9. The Siege of Yulong Pass. Snow fell gently upon Yulong Pass, once a remote trade route carved through the Heavenly Fang Mountains, now transformed into a war front where destiny itself would be tested. Li Feng stood atop a frost-laced ridge, the heaven blade sheathed at his side, his gaze surveying the horizon. Below him, thousands of soldiers loyal to the Jiangwu sect and allied clans stood ready. Opposite them, black banners whipped in the wind. The Black Phoenix clan had come in full force. Lady Qian stood beside him, dressed in her storm-gray robes, a new scar across her brow. "The scouts say they've brought their full vanguard, necromancers, crimson lancers, and the twin assassins of Langsu Tower." Li Feng tightened his grip on the hilt. "Then we face them all." In the center of the encampment, Elder Mo convened the generals. Strategies were laid out, maps marked with red ink and trembling fingers. The siege would not be won with brute strength alone. They needed guile, resolve, and sacrifice. That night, Li Feng slipped into a meditative trance beneath the stars. The spirit of the Blade Sovereign appeared once more. "You carry our vengeance," the spirit said. "But remember, vengeance without wisdom becomes ruin." "I understand," Li Feng whispered. "I will not become you. I will surpass you." At dawn, war began. The Black Phoenix clan unleashed their corpse battalion, skeletal warriors wrapped in fire. Li Feng's forces met them with defensive formations, using sacred talismans and iron shields blessed by monks. Explosions cracked the earth. Blood painted the snow. Mid-battle, Li Feng led a vanguard charge to sever the enemy's supply lines. He moved like lightning through the chaos, the heaven blade humming with fury. Lady Qian was at his flank, blades singing. 1,000 foes fell in their wake. Yet it wasn't enough. From the cliffs above, the twin assassins descended. They moved like shadows split in two, one striking from above, the other below. Li Feng was pushed back, his shoulder slashed. Pain blurred his sight. Then, from the mountains came an unexpected roar. Mountaineer clans, long thought neutral, had come to repay old debts. With axes and bows they surged into the fray, breaking the enemy's lines. By nightfall, Yulong Pass burned, but the Jiangwu banner still flew. Li Feng stood bloodied but unbroken. "Onward," he said. This was only the beginning. Chapter 10. The Dragon Throne Reclaimed. The imperial city of Xiangyang glowed like a dream of old gold, its spires and walls lit by lanterns and fire. But beneath its splendor lay rot. The emperor, a puppet, his court riddled with Black Phoenix influence. Li Feng and his coalition marched upon it, their numbers swollen by peasants, warriors, monks, and even defected soldiers from the imperial army. Hope had become rebellion. Rebellion had become revolution. The gates of Xiangyang stood tall, but within the final foe waited. Grand Master Jin Xian, patriarch of the Black Phoenix clan, wielder of the Void Saber. On the eve of battle, Li Feng met with Lady Qian atop the Vermilion Tower. "If we fall, what we've built may crumble," she said. "If we win," he replied, "a better world begins." They kissed beneath the moon. At sunrise, the assault began. War raged across the city, courtyards, palace halls, sky bridges. Li Feng carved a path through it all, heaven blade clashing with cursed steel. He reached the throne hall, where Jin Xian waited, seated on the emperor's dais. "You dare claim the sovereign's legacy?" Jin Xian laughed. "You are but a fragment." "I am not his shadow," Li Feng said, stepping forward. "I am the blade that ends your reign." Their duel shook the palace. Lightning and shadow clashed. Every strike threatened to tear the world. Jin Xian summoned ghosts of old emperors, but Li Feng countered with the spirits of those he had saved. The heaven blade blazed like the sun. With a final cry, he severed Jin Xian's saber and drove his blade through the dark heart of the Black Phoenix clan. Peace returned. The emperor abdicated. Li Feng refused the throne but installed a new council, wise leaders from every province. He returned to Jiangwu sect, planting the heaven blade in its shrine. Lady Qian remained at his side. Their journey, born of blood and loss, ended in quiet mornings, teaching young disciples. And so the legend lived on. The Blade's sovereign did not return as a tyrant. He returned as a man who chose peace.